Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Conspiracy originally released for the PS3 and Xbox 360 back in June of 2008 to fairly decent reviews, but one of the first things you'll notice about this game is, this motherfucker ain't Matt Damon. Now very early on in the game's development, Matt was approached about lending his voice and likeness to the character but turned it down, saying he felt the game would be too violent. He wanted the game to be more akin to the '93 classic Myst. He claims to have pitched a puzzle game that would explore Bourne's amnesia instead of just being another shooter, but the developers High Moon decided that they would rather continue their vision of a Bourne game without Damon and would separate it from the films. And Damon's reasoning for turning down the game was what inspired me to make this video, so let's take a look at Jason Bourne's kill count and Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Conspiracy. The game opens with a cutscene of an unconscious Bourne floating in the sea, then jumps back 2 days earlier to him in Marseille, being awoken by a call from his handler Conklin. Bourne is informed that his cover has been blown and that Womboze has sent an assassin named O'Connor after him, so our first mission has us tracking down the hitman and eliminating him. Like a true Irishman, he was last spotted in a nearby bar, so that's where we head. Inside we have a little scuffle with the locals, but there's no sign of O'Connor, that is until when we leave. He pops off a few shots at us then runs away. Yes, the hitman that was paid to kill us is running away. This starts a chase where we have to follow him through the streets whilst knocking out a few of his goons until we finally reach his apartment, where we have our first of many boss fights in the game. We fool around inside for a little bit before taking it out onto the rooftop where we finally defeat the Irishman, making him our first kill of the game. Conklin wants to pull the plug on the mission to kill Womboze, but Bourne insists he can still get the job done, he just has to pass through the docks, which leads us into the start of mission 2. Right off the bat we're given a suppressed pistol, which made me think this would be a stealth mission, but boy was I wrong. Very quickly we have the place on full alert, and after killing 4 guards I somehow managed to get the attention of this helicopter. We do some parkour to try and get away from it and kill another 4 guys before running into Womboze's Lieutenant Solomon. After slapping him around for a solid 5 minutes, Bourne decides to toss him over the railing into the water down below, and we can get back to business. We head outside and finally destroy that helicopter that was harassing us earlier, and although according to the internet these little birds can be operated solo, since they're usually a 2-man team we're going to be adding 2 kills to the count. After the explosion, Conklin starts shouting in our earpiece about how the mission's over, Womboze knows we're here, but Bourne comes up with a great idea that we'll just blow up the dock's fueling station and then everybody will assume that we're dead. So that's what we do. We kill 20 men on our way over there, which means it only took us 27.5 minutes to kill more people in this game than Bourne does across the entire trilogy. After turning on the gas pumps and killing another 7 men, the massive explosion engulfs the docks as we manage to jump aboard a ship with Womboze and his men surely assuming that we're dead.
The blast was huge! He has to be dead! If we don't have a body, then he's out there.
So yeah, Solomon and his search party find us quite quickly on this tiny boat, but instead of just opening fire and killing us straight away, he decides it'd be more fun to have us beat up 5 of his men and then have a rematch. The cutscene has Solomon winning the fight and then wrapping a large chain around our neck and tossing us overboard before proudly declaring that he's killed us. But of course, it's not that easy to kill Jason Bourne, and you see him pop up from the water and grab the boat just as it fades to black. Mission 3 takes place on Womboze's ship, but before we can get to him we've got a few tasks that need done. On the bottom floor we disable the alarm system and drop his mini submarine into the water, taking away one of his escape routes. Of course I'm killing a bunch of guards whilst all this is happening, 10 to be exact. On the second floor we fight through 11 more men before sneaking up on Womboze's general who's threatening a few guards, and Conklin suggests that we should hunt down the general and use his gun to kill Womboze and then we can frame it as a coup. But first we have to disable Womboze's last method of escape, his helicopter. In the process of doing this we kill 6 men and then after that another 15 whilst fighting throughout the ship, trying to find the general. We have another boss fight which lasted way too long, but I wasn't really sure if smashing his head through a scanner would kill him, so I took his gun and shot him just to be safe. After dealing with the general we head towards the top floor, killing another 3 men before bumping into Solomon for the rubber match. After a bit of back and forth, Bourne Sparta kicks Solomon over the edge into the sea and we can finally go kill Womboze, although if you've seen the movie you know how this ends. We walk in, Bourne sees the kids and realises that he can't kill Womboze in front of his children. Whilst heading outside, he gets shot in the back twice and falls into the sea, where he's then found by a fishing boat a day or so later. We then have a mini compilation of Bourne getting pulled up, cut open, threatening the fishermen, all that good stuff that you've probably already seen in the movie. But during his encounter with the 2 police officers in Zurich, holding the pistol triggers a flashback, which is mission 4. Now this mission is set in Zurich International Airport and it's no surprise that holding the gun reminded him of this place. We're tasked with killing a war criminal named De Vandelen, who's about to be transferred from the Swiss police to the UN security forces in a parking garage. After sneaking through the garage, and by sneaking I mean handing out free concussions to every officer that I could find, we finally reach the bottom floor and get our first view of the prisoner. But before we can strike, a van full of terrorists show up, killing all the police and freeing them. So now we have to kill a bunch of terrorists and chase a war criminal through an airport. We kill 4 inside the parking garage, then another 8 out on the street before heading into the airport where things really heat up. Whilst inside the airport we kill 42 terrorists, and then just make it in time to catch the tram that the Vandalins hopped on, which is, as you would expect, filled with more of his men. The shotgun came in handy here, one-shotting most of the 13 men and allowing us to reach the front of the tram just as the commander locks the Vandalin in the cab and start a fist fight with us, which ends up with him being thrown off the tram. The Vandalin manages to pull the brakes and get off before we can grab him, so we're back to chasing him whilst fighting through his men. We take on another 20 men before managing to get aboard the plane where we finally get our hands on him. After beating him like he owes me money, a gun just randomly appears out of nowhere, and as the Vandalin grabs it, a few shots go off, killing his pilot. So after knocking him out, Bourne grabs a parachute and hops off moments before the plane slams into the side of a mountain. Now if you've been watching the bottom left of the screen, you'll notice I didn't add any kills for the plane crash. In my opinion, since the Vandalin shot the pilot which caused the crash, not Bourne, we can't blame him for the 7 deaths. After reminiscing about the good times, Bourne is now at the US Embassy, which plays out a little different from the film. Instead of this being a stealth mission like you'd expect it to be, we actually spend the majority of this mission beating up guards, then run away as soon as the Marines show up. We even at one point beat up what the game calls a superior officer in a mini boss fight, but if we look closely at his military patch we can see he's actually a staff sergeant. And while Bourne does beat up 17 people in the embassy, he doesn't kill anyone. The mission ends similar to the film, with him dropping down to the alleyway and then offering Marie $10,000 if she drives him to Paris, which she does. It then cuts to Bourne in his Paris apartment, and when he looks at his Lithuanian passport it triggers another flashback, and with how violent these flashbacks are, there's no wonder he's tried to block them out. This mission takes place in Lithuania's capital of Vilnius, at the Vilnius University, where we start out by sniping 4 guards before killing our target with a pretty impressive shot. So now all we have to do is escape the university that is crawling with mercenaries. We kill 10 whilst trying to find our way out, and then another 12 in the courtyard, which triggers an APC to show up. After dying twice, I finally managed to shoot the jerry can that was hanging off the side of the vehicle, which after exploding exposes the gas tank that we shoot to explode the entire APC. Originally I was only going to add 2 kills for the APC, 1 for the driver and then 1 for the gunner, but after a bit of research online it turns out they're usually operated by a 3-man team which also includes a commander, so we'll be adding 3 kills for the APC. We fight through a library killing 15 more men before Bourne makes it outside the university's grounds. Spotting a distillery nearby and needing a distraction for his escape, he decides it would be a good idea to blow it up. On our way over, 19 armed men try to stop us, but they are no match for teetotaler Bourne. Inside the distillery we pull a lever which somehow starts a fire and kills 7 guys on our way out. Bourne gets thrown out the window by the explosion, and we see from the cutscene that the explosion kills 5 more men. We are then back in present day, and the CIA is alerted to Jason's position after Marie picks up the house phone, and we see 3 assassins from across Europe getting paged about their new mission to kill Jason Bourne, the last of which is Castell, who gets to the apartment rather quickly. We fight Castell and even get to stab him in the hand with a pen just like in the film. After defeating Castell, he commits suicide before Bourne can interrogate him, and we then start Mission 8 outside of Marie's iconic Mini Cooper. Now right at the beginning, Marie says that we should go through a tunnel, but when we get there it's blocked due to a previous car crash, so what do? Instead of just, I don't know, going down any of the other streets in Paris and finding a different way around, we're forced to drive about this tiny open area of 6 streets until the car's been towed and we can finally drive through, just to get scudded off a bus. And by the way, this car takes an absolute beating in this mission. I get hit off a bus, I slam into a police jeep head on, drive straight through a shop. I'm not gonna lie, I was really in touch with my feminine side for this mission. But we finally managed to escape the police and then they ditch the car. With the authorities now knowing Marie is an accomplice, they have to change our look. We jump to Bourne cutting Marie's hair in a hotel bathroom where she plants a wee smooch on him, and Bourne has to take a minute to remember if he likes girls or not. After losing his virginity for the second time, Bourne checks himself out in the mirror, which triggers his final flashback. We stay in Paris for this flashback as we're tasked with eliminating Charles Renard, who's hosting a ball at his museum as a front for a weapons deal. While sneaking inside we find a dead guard and come across an assassin who, after following for a bit, we get to fight. After defeating the assassin we listen in on the deal, and as Renard is finished showing off the dirty bomb, the buyer Azar kills him and runs off with the bomb as his mercenaries open fire on the guards. So our new objective is to kill Azar and secure the bomb. Inside the museum we kill 28 men, a mix of both mercenaries and the guards, before heading outside to where Azar is making a run for his helicopter. After fighting another 12 men, we have a cutscene where just after Azar has boarded his helicopter, Bourne kills 2 guards before shooting the pilot, causing the helicopter to crash and explode. We then come back to present day and Marie says that she knows a friend that they can stay with for a bit who lives out in the countryside. This then leads to the Professor hunting us down. Mission 10 starts with the Professor taking a few shots at the house. We have to block the windows with bookcases and wardrobes so Marie can get to safety. We then head up into Eamon's room and grab his shotgun before heading outside, where we shoot the propane tank similar to how Jason does in the film to obscure the Professor's vision. But instead of meeting in a field, we end up fighting inside a burning down barn. This was actually a really tough fight because of the 2-minute timer, and I barely managed to beat him second time round with only 1.48 seconds left. After spearing him through the barn wall, we find ourselves in a knife fight. Well, I say knife fight. He had a knife and we had a broken bit of wood, but we still managed to stab him to death with it. Afterwards, we take the Professor's phone and give our old pal Conklin a call. They do the scene where Bourne tells him to meet him on a bridge in Paris alone, but it's just horribly done.
Enough talk. I make the plans now. 5:30 p.m. Paris, today, Point Neuf. You come alone. You walk to the middle of that bridge, and take off your jacket, face east. I'll redial this number. I told you to come alone. Guess that was too complicated. So try this. I'm gone.
Our final mission is attacking the Treadstone safe house, where right at the beginning we see Bourne snap a man's neck. On the other rooftop we knock out a guard before using his sniper to kill another 3 guards, and finally dispose of 6 more before dropping down a skylight into the safe house where we confront Conklin. Now, in the film, after their conversation, Bourne kills 3 guards on the staircase whilst trying to leave, but how many do you think we kill in the game? Is it A, 3, B, 5, C, 10, or D, all of the above? Yeah, it's D. And that doesn't even include the kill that we get mid-air using the other guy's body as a shield. When we get out onto the street we encounter another 14 men, and although I don't do kill of the game, if I did, this one would have certainly won it. We have one last little gunfight in a courtyard and then an alleyway with 9 more kills being added to the count. Then we have a cutscene. It's Mannheim, the last of the 3 assassins that we seen earlier in that little montage, killing Conklin as Bourne watches on. We follow him into a church where we have a gunfight that involves us dropping a statue on him and then him shooting an explosive canister which does more damage to him than us. Bourne spears him through the stained glass and we have our final boss fight in the graveyard, which concludes with Bourne striking Mannheim with a shovel and then him falling to his death, making him our final kill of the game, number 348. We then have our final cutscene with Bourne showing up at Marie's scooter shop and them embracing. Like the last video, I think it's fun to look at some of the stats from over the game. For example, with 348 kills, that means Bourne kills 16 times more people in the game than he does across the entire trilogy. But one thing I didn't mention throughout this video was the amount of times that we spared someone's life. Whilst playing through the game we knocked out 124 people, so if we add that on top of the 348 kills, that would mean that we faced 472 enemies across the entire game, 26% of which lived to see another day. Having only died 4 times, we can give Bourne a kill-death ratio of 87, or if we include the knockouts, an enemy death ratio of 118. Since it only took 3.5 hours to beat this game, that means he also averaged 1.7 kills per minute, or again if we include the knockouts, 2.2 enemies per minute. Since the game doesn't specify between each weapon, I wasn't able to give a complete breakdown of the different variants of assault rifles and handguns that I used, but honestly they all handle the same, the only difference is the look of it. It was no surprise that the assault rifle was my number 1 for most kills. It's the only weapon in the game that you can actually use to engage at multiple distances, and the suppressed pistol you start almost every single mission with it. Although I do wish I used the Uzi more, as it was actually a really good gun and I avoided it the whole game and didn't actually pick it up and try it until the last mission. But yeah, that was Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Conspiracy, a game that I really enjoyed as a kid but sadly just didn't hold up that well. One of my biggest criticisms would definitely be their inability to develop Bourne's character and tell his story well. When they revealed the game they said they wanted it to be a mix between the movie and the books, their own version of Bourne. But if you played this game without watching the movie or reading the book, you wouldn't have a clue what was going on half the time. But maybe that's an unfair criticism, as I would imagine the vast majority of people who would play the game or even watch this video have previous experience with the franchise in one way or another. Anyway, that was the kill count for Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Conspiracy. If you liked the video, please be sure to hit that like button. Hopefully I will see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.